This stylish little sippy cup has a big secret. Well, maybe not that secret, judging by the obvious transducer cable. We can connect to the cup on our phone, cast it into the water, and it'll automatically chart depths by pairing sonar readings with spatial GPS coordinates. This means we can even create our own custom depth maps using software like Google Earth, or MATLAB if you're lame like me. And the best part is this project only cost me around $25 to have some charting fun. In a previous video, I built something very similar using this other very stylish sippy cup, but this time I wanted to improve on a few things. Mainly the weight, because the old version was honestly a little too chunky to cast and reel back in. This time around, I switched to a smaller, lighter container with a slimmer shape that should move through the water easier while reeling back in. The plastic is also softer, which should help it survive impacts a little bit better. Not to mention, it's got sharks on it. I like the blue sharks. Anyways, I also replaced the biggest line item when it came to weight, and that was the battery. Last time, I used this bulky USB power bank that weighed around 75 grams. This time, I wanted to go super small with this 120 milliamp tiny LiPo, but before committing to it, I wanted to check the power draw since I didn't know how much battery life I could get out of it. To measure it, I plugged the ESP32 into a split USB cable so I could place my multimeter in series. The ESP32 alone was already pulling over 120 milliamps. Once I plugged the GPS and ultrasonic sensor into the system, it jumped above 200 milliamps, forcing me to switch fuses to get the full picture. At full draw, this tiny battery would probably last less than an hour and would completely drain, which is something lithium batteries really do not like. So instead, I went with this larger lithium-ion cell. It still weighs much less than the old battery, but at 500 milliamp hours, it should give roughly 2 hours of runtime. The rigid shell is also a nice bonus since it offers a bit more protection in case it bounces inside the buoy. Because this is a lithium battery, I also wanted a way to monitor voltage so we do not over-discharge it. The plan was to use a voltage divider and feed that into the ESP32 so we could estimate battery percentage based on the reading. At least that was the theory. The idea caused problems later on, but we'll get to that in a moment. Measuring depth, I'm using the JSN-SR04T, which is a waterproof ultrasonic sensor. I actually tested the sensor underwater in a previous video, and the key thing was understanding that sound travels much faster in water than it does in air. That changes the sensor's behavior quite a bit. The minimum measurable distance, or blind zone, increases to roughly 4x larger underwater, but the trade-off is we also get about 4 times the maximum range. And outside, we don't have to worry about the cone angle bouncing off premature readings from bathtub walls. The GT-U7 GPS module handles positioning. Its ceramic antenna needs to face outwards towards the sky so it can lock onto satellites. The module reads latitude, longitude, speed, heading, and a bunch of other things which attach coordinates to every depth reading. One limitation is the refresh rate. By default, the GPS updates once a second, so depending on how fast the buoy is moving, we could travel quite a bit of distance between log points. GPS accuracy also isn't the greatest, but for a fun little DIY project, I don't really care if it's off. The wiring this time around was a little bit of a mess, because instead of connecting the ESP32 through a USB port, I'm feeding power directly into the 5V rail. The battery powers the ESP32, the sonar, and the GPS module. I connected my voltage monitoring circuit to the 3.3V rail since I needed a reference voltage for the voltage dividing circuit. However, spoiler alert, that turned out to be a bit of a mistake. Another improvement was packing foam inside the bottle. Last time, the electronics, particularly the ESP32 pins, got absolutely slammed around every time by the buoy hitting the water. To mount the sonar sensor, I printed a smaller holder with the curved base this time so it better matches the shape of the container. I also glued it down because in the last build, it kinda popped out. I cut a hole through the lid so I had something to route the sensor cable through. I also added a metal attachment point just like before, so I had a place to attach my line to. And again, I sealed everything up with hot glue because I have full faith and confidence that my hot glue job will not leak. Granted, I do get the benefit of hindsight saying that. When placing components, I want the ESP32 and GPS antenna near the top so they stay above the water line for a better signal. Meanwhile, the heavier components, like the battery, sit lower near the sonar sensor so the buoy naturally rolls sensor side down into the water. With everything assembled, it was time for the sync test. Not only do I want to check for leaks and that it actually floats, but more importantly for the sensor readings, I need to check that it rolls over sensor side down, since we don't know what the orientation is going to be when it hits the water, so it needs to be able to self-correct. And looking inside for leaks, it looks like our hot glue job worked out just fine. Now that that's out of the way, we can get to the fun part. The ESP32 creates its own Wi-Fi access point that I can connect to from a phone. Once connected, the microcontroller hosts a simple web interface where we can start logging, stop logging, download the data, and view the live sensor readings. Once logging, every row stores a GPS coordinate alongside the depth measurement. Later, we can import that data into mapping software or make our own to build our own custom contour maps. For comparison, I also brought along a cheap consumer fish finder. It works great for live readings, but unlike this project, it cannot save depth data and make our own custom maps, at least for the base unit, and this base unit alone cost me like 5x the Sippy Cup. Here we're seeing depth readings around 0.8 meters, so that's what we'll be looking for when we test out the Sippy Cup unit. Once powered on, the Wi-Fi network popped up right away and the interface showed up. Everything was looking good, except for the battery voltage reading, which looked kinda strange, but I know my battery's charged, so I'm just gonna ignore that for now and go back to collecting data. Now I forgot to hit screen record on this spot, but it was showing around 0.88 meters looking at the data after the fact, which was pretty close to the reference fish finder, actually spot on. The only issue was this depth was right near the sonar's underwater blind zone. Any shallower, and it probably didn't pick up those values. But most importantly, still no leaks, which is pretty good for our hot glue. To get some better data to test out our unit, I moved to a deeper area. The reference fish finder was showing depths ranging from around 2 meters to roughly 1.5 meters near the shore, and these are the values that we'll look to compare to with our own Sippy Cup. Throwing the Sippy Cup out, I remember to actually hit screen record this time so we can get the live readings. Except I was so glued to those live readings that I forget to hit record on the logging data button. But we'll come back later and get some more data. On my next cast, I remember to press record this time. However, this is when issue number 2 showed up. Whenever the Wi-Fi connection briefly drops, like it just did, the logging stopped too. So if the buoy dips too much under the water, like it just did, we lose all our data. The Wi-Fi connection also seemed a little less stable, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Even when it was above the water, I should add. However, since I already managed to get myself out of the house, a rare occurrence, I may as well continue to test it. And once again, perfectly dry, that's another win for the hot glue. And at this point, I have absolutely no idea where my battery's at and what it's doing, since it's showing that it's completely drained. But it's not completely drained, so we'll have to take it back to the bench and take a look. Heading back home, I pulled the battery out and measured it with a multimeter. It showed 3.77 volts, not the life-draining 2.5. Even under load, it still showed around 3.67, and not the 2.8 that the UI was showing, meaning voltage sag, my initial speculation, isn't a problem. Since the resistors are fixed in the voltage dividing circuit, they don't change, the only variable that does change would maybe be the V-reference. So I measured the V-reference, the 3.3 volt rail, and it was not 3.3 volts, explaining the problem. After doing some research, it turns out the AMS117 voltage regulator needs around 1.2 volts of headroom. That means even with a fully charged lithium-ion battery, we're only at about 4.2 volts, so the regulator was struggling to maintain a stable 3.3 volt output, which explains why the readings were off as the battery was drained. And the added load of the voltage module draining on an already strained 3.3 volt rail was probably contributing to Wi-Fi instability issues. My temporary solution, which is now the permanent solution, at least for this version of the project, was to remove the voltage divider module altogether and replace it with a battery timer, since I know roughly how long I'm going to get off of one full charge. This way I'm still able to keep track of the rate of discharge of my lithium-ion battery. Let's head outside, reset our timer, and get back to the water. I also changed it so that when it splashes down and we potentially lose contact, we don't lose all the data that we were recording. Now I'll test it, and I'll speed up the footage so I get this nice beautiful sound of a jet flying overhead. This time around, the Wi-Fi also felt more stable. Taking the data back, now comes the really fun part, and that's actually creating our own depth charts. As previously explained in the last video, we can create our own using Google Earth. When we import the CSV file, a latitude and longitude is automatically recognized. By applying a color gradient to the depth section, we're able to automatically visualize what our deep parts are in darker areas and our lighter parts are the shallower areas. And while this is all fun and cool, I wanted to see if I could actually get some contour lines like you would find on a real depth chart, and to do that, I tried using MATLAB. At first, I got this nice colorful blob, and then I was able to go ahead and actually add some 2D contour lines with the depths on them. And while this blob of colors is really cool to look at, it's kinda hard to tell where you are without some satellite imagery. To create a map, I looked for a toolbox that was called the Mapping Toolbox, and it allows you to create precisely that. Now we're able to overlay our contours on top of some aerial imagery. For a better example, I loaded up a CSV file that had more data points in it. This was honestly a pretty cool looking result, and not something I expected to get out of these cheap components. While editing this video, I realized we actually passed 5,000 subscribers, which is absolutely wild, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the project, I certainly had fun, and with that said, have a good one.